Good evening. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. We begin tonight as we continue to deal with the coronavirus pandemic, and we continue to adjust our reopening plans in response to that. It's obviously been in the news a lot recently, and thought Dr. Bernardo could take a couple minutes to just give us an update on the schools reopening and how we're integrating in to the full day with respect to elementary students and just some other information that's out there, and just to provide clarity on things going forward.
So good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chiappetta. Thank you to the board. And I wanted to thank by thanking all of the community members who have really shown some incredible patience and grace through this process. You know, I know there are a tremendous amount of ups and downs, and we realize that, and our community has been great with giving us the space to try to do the best we can with the situation at our disposal. So I want to thank them for that, because there are other communities that are not behaving similarly. Similarly with our students, you know, I don't know if at 10, 12, 15, whatever the ages were, I would have been, you know, quite as malleable and cooperative as some of our young people are as they see the big picture. And it's pretty cool to see. It says a lot about our families as they try to do the right thing. And finally, really, the staff. You know, there are nightmare scenarios all over Long Island about staffs and administrations and the public and all these conflicts. And we really are in a good place where our staff's taking care of our kids. They're putting the young people first, and we're trying to take care of them as well. And so all around, you know, the people are doing what has to be done. A couple of quick things that I think are worth just a mention. The first one is I've been sharing with all of you when I can, with the board and with the public, how the contact tracing goes and what that means. And to make a very long process short, when we get word that someone is infected with COVID, when we get that message from the family, from the nurse, wherever it comes from, we start two things simultaneously. The first is that the school begins their tracing, every single piece of it, what happened, who is it, and then we get in touch with the Board of Health, and they put medical professionals on with us, doctors and nurses, and we conference, and they grill us. And they grill us on, mask off, how many people in the room, square footage of the room, filter ratings, how many windows were open, how many inches were they open. So it's really that detailed, every case. And then they often go back to their committee, and then they come back to us with some type of juxtaposition on where we should go. And that's kind of how it goes. One of the things that has changed drastically over the past 3 months is based on their 3 months of data, almost 3 months, right? The Suffolk County Board of Health, and today they made it public, they've determined that, especially at the elementary level, when students are wearing masks and elementary population is in the room, right now it looks like it's not spreading past the infected young person, if that makes sense. So their data is showing that while they're spread all over the place on the island and in the state, the person that gets it in the class is not transmitting it, thank goodness, to other people, and largely because of our precautions. So what they've been doing is they've been quarantining that person. They've been quarantining the infected individual. But they haven't been quarantining the rest of the class, provided we've gone through all those details of the masks and the distance, and we hit everyone. So that's been their process. They're doing it. They say they're following the science, and that's their process then. So I try to explain that when I call homes to let you all know, because I like people to know that we didn't just wake up and decide that this one requires a quarantine and this one doesn't, but it's based on what the doctors and nurses from the Board of Health are contact tracing with us. So we are maintaining that relationship with them because it's critical to have those partners. That being said, there will be cases, we have no question, that there are cases, like we shut for 2 weeks one of our buildings being a year, right? When it has to be, we do it. And so it's not that we're gun shy about taking a precaution, but we also, when something's not being spread by a particular school being open, you know, we don't jump the gun. So we're trying to strike that balance to do a good job for everyone involved, and we're trying to take each one slow and steady. We also as opposed, many districts don't do this, but we call you even if there's no quarantine. In other words, if you're in a class of an infected child, or you're on the bus, we do call you. And even though you're not quarantined and there's no call necessary, we call the basically say, hey, look, somebody in your child's class, the Board of Health thinks it's totally safe, but you should know. That way a family is armed with all the information. You think it's their right. So that's the contact tracing, and that's how that's been going. We don't expect that to change. That has hit a really good flow where we work through. The thing that's added a little kick to the situation lately are really two things. Number one, obviously there's an uptick in rates in communities. That's a reality in the country and the communities. Again, not schools, but in the communities. And so that's in people's minds. And then what's also in people's minds is that the governor's office, about a month ago, talked about a microcluster approach, meaning he and his people were going to divide areas, and we don't know what an area is yet. So I can't be specific. Is that a school district? Is that a county? Is that Long Island? We don't know. But we're going to divide areas into red, meaning your school's closed, orange, meaning you're probably closed, but we want to do a few things, or yellow, meaning you're on warning. You can open, but you have to test 20% of your student population, staff population per week. So in our case, that would be 1,400 children and staff members. So that's the very real, that comes by executive order. It's not a debate. It has not happened on Long Island. What's confusing about it is that was about a month ago, but now the governor's position has largely changed, right? To, and I'm not saying he flip-flopped or anything like that, but it's changed in terms of the science, in terms of they believe that largely, especially at the elementary level, the spread's not taking place in schools for the most part if you're following the rules. So even yesterday, he was on TV telling the mayor, right, to find a way to stay open. And obviously the mayor didn't today. But so you understand the dichotomy? We have three things simultaneously happening, and I really want everyone to know. We've got raising rate, unrelated to schools, but we have to take it seriously, a raising rate to begin with. We've got these colored zones, and we simultaneously have both the health department and the governor talking about when possible it's not going to impact your school district to try to stay open and educate kids. So those are the things we have. We will never take a chance. When in doubt, we would of course call the Board of Education and of course, close. We have a right to if we choose. I don't have quarantine power, only the Board of Health has that, but of course you as a board and we as a superintendent have school closure power if we're ever in that situation. So we're in very good shape. We're following the numbers. Here's what we have to be ready for. We have to be ready for, at any point, we could get a call that we're in a red zone or we're in an orange zone, and that's it. Now, we were on all day with the Suffolk County Superintendent's Association, who've been on with the Board of Health and the governor's office, trying to get an idea. Do you think these zone designations are coming next week, next month? Can you tell us what's going on? And they're saying it'll be an amalgamation of metrics and they'll talk to us when the time comes. So we really just have to be aware. What most districts are starting to do is tell people, we've got school, but be prepared if we leave today to maybe not come back. I'm not saying that's the case with us, but it is the governor's decision at that point. Okay? So those are the three things I really wanted to fill everybody in on. Good news is our systems are working, really working well. Good news is that we have a phenomenal relationship with the Board of Health. We're learning from them, they're learning from us. And we are navigating whatever this red zone, yellow zone, if we know anything, we'll let you know. That's it. Anything I missed, Board? I know we're over-communicating to some degree, but honestly, when you're in a situation like this, I'd rather be accused of talking too much than I'm not letting people know. So thank you to everyone. Our staff and our kids come first in terms of protecting them, and we will do that at all costs, and do the best we can to educate at the same time. Thank you. Grazie.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Moving on to our second. That's it. Second item before we get to our business agenda. There's been a lot of people to recognize during the pandemic, and some of that has gotten overshadowed as we've dealt with these larger decisions about closures and reopening plans. We've tried to recognize people as we normally do. Becomes obviously a little more difficult during the pandemic, but I didn't want to let any more time pass without recognizing someone who's meant a lot to our South Huntington community. We have a organization called SHUFSD, South Huntington Educational Foundation, and it's a separate 501c3, so it's not affiliated with the school district, it's not controlled by the school district, but they help us and they assist us and they help support the leaders of tomorrow. Our motto is that we create the leaders of tomorrow, they help to support the leaders of tomorrow. And SHUFSD has been very generous to the district for a number of decades now. And like any organization, there needs to be someone who leads it. And for 17 consecutive years, Charles Ciravolo was the leader of SHUFSD as the chairman. And he had shown us over that time great fundraising skills. And those fundraising skills have resulted in a tremendous number of golf outings and gala events and family fun days and a Motown concert and food trucks. And all these wonderful events has helped to raise tens of thousands, if not over $100,000, which has gone right back to the school district for such great projects as the Elementary Star Lab, our robots, Z-Space program, our Performing Arts Center video projection system, the Waltman High School Dance Studio, rock climbing walls in Maplewood and Birchwood, iPad carts with iPads and smartboards, the Waltman High School Coding Club, our Google room in the district office, furniture in there, as well as the equipment, as well as every year mini grants that are awarded to our instructional teachers who apply. These tens and if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of donations have enriched our district and made it such a great place as we've been able to do programs and new equipment that we ordinarily couldn't fund through the budget. And so we're so appreciative of SHUFSD and SHUFSD's chairman, Mr. Charles Ciravolo, for all that he's done. After 17 years as chairman and 18 years as a member, he decided to step down from that leadership position this year. But we are nonetheless very grateful for his contributions that have impacted our community and so many of our students throughout all of the years. His leadership has provided great vision and a mission that has benefited our South Huntington learning family. So today, I'm proud on behalf of the Board of Education to recognize Mr. Charles Ciravolo for all that he's done for our community and present a plaque in appreciation. Mr. Ciravolo? As he makes his way up, I will read the plaque. It says, the Board of Education of the South Huntington School District honors Charles T. Ciravolo in recognition and appreciation of 17 years of service as chairman of the Board of South Huntington Educational Foundation. Your dedication, leadership, and vision has continuously supported the district's goal of creating the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you for your service to our students. November 18th, 2020. Congratulations, Charles.
I really appreciate this. Thank you very much. I'm honored and humbled. You know, I entered into SHUFSD when my children were very, very young, and someone said, you have to get involved with this. You're involved with the district. So I said, all right, you know what? I'll do it. And over the time, about 6 months later, they said, we want you to be president. And I did it. And 17 years later, I said, all right, it's time for someone else to take it. And I'm very proud of all of the accomplishments that we were able to do, and what a wonderful community and school district we have. I graduated from this school district. My children graduated. My son works for the district now. So it's really a family thing, and I really appreciate all of this. This is a great award and great recognition, and I can only say it's great to be involved. And for those of you who are not, please do, because we're always looking for help and volunteers. And you really do get back what you put into it. So it's really a great, great organization that really benefits the entire district. You know, we help all of the buildings in every facet, and I'm really grateful to be part of it. And I'm still being on the board and still helping out where I can. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Actually, scoot a little bit that way.
Now, does that plaque include a thank you for giving us comments?
All right, one more for me here. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Congratulations once again. And as you mentioned, I forgot to mention, one of your greatest legacies is the two outstanding young men that you've raised. And we're very appreciative to have one of them work for us. Thank you for everything. Okay. We will move on to our business agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Mr. Bronson, second by Mr. Joyner. Any questions? All in favor of the agenda? Any opposed? All right. Items C through F require one resolution for adoption. Those are the minutes and bills. Is there a motion? Ms. Carey, seconded by Mr. Joyner. Any questions on C through F? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Communications. We received two communications. We received one letter to the Board of Education from concerned residents regarding construction at the new parking lot next to Stimson Middle School. And we received the second letter to the Board of Education from affected, impacted residents regarding construction of the parking lot as well. Do any of those authors like to speak to their communication?
That's where the frustration comes in, because it's very vague to say a parking lot is going to be on that lot. There isn't any information that we can easily obtain to understand the direct impact. And so now we're kind of in a mode where the project's underway, understand it's gone through the proper channels, but it's a very unnerving situation that I think we're all in. And I think that's really why we're asking for the board and the district to consider communicating a little bit more directly with those impacted for future projects, and even on this particular one, so that we have information that can kind of help settle some nerves and some concerns, right? And I think, where we're finding ourselves right now is, we're all speaking with each other almost daily, comparing conversations and exchanges that we've had with various different members of the district and the board regarding this matter. And it doesn't seem like that's a really effective way to communicate on a project like this. I'm sure, there's a lot of other things going on, and I know, everybody's got their heads down with the pandemic, which everybody appreciates for sure. And so this might seem like a small matter, right, in the agenda that the district has to consider. But for 5 residents of the district, this is a huge matter, right, and one of safety primarily, which is my biggest concern, right? So I understand that you've mentioned a couple of times that you want to, agree to disagree on this, but I really want to stress that there's a lesson, I think, to be learned here, or an opportunity to really, have a little bit more compassion or sensitivity around something like this in the future, right? I think, the other thing that's a little unnerving, and I'm not suggesting that the district isn't making efforts here, but, we have inquired with the town of Huntington around building permits and get some information around what are our rights as residents. And we have found out through this project that the district doesn't have to follow the town of Huntington code. Now, granted, they have to follow the Board of the New York State Education Department code, but that information isn't very easily obtained. And to really understand impact, right? It's been like a part-time job for all of us to get this information. And I find it unfortunate, right? And again, I appreciate there's other priorities and other things that the district has to balance. But I think that's why we're stressing that an additional letter, maybe a separate meeting with those that are impacted, to really sit down and help us understand or open up a dialogue would have gone a long way to at least ensure that we're all very much familiar with what's about to happen, so that it's not so much of a shock. And so that's really, one of the things that I wanted to just reiterate and stress. I'm not trying to knock anybody at the district or within the board, but I do think that there's an opportunity to really try to do more communications in these sorts of situations. I'm sure it's not going to be every year, right? And I understand you guys have been talking about this for a couple of years now, but there's an opportunity for learning, and there's opportunity for better communication as the district moves forward. And that's my challenge to you guys.
Okay, no, I appreciate your comments, and it's not every day that we do a project like this. It's probably the first time. Generally, our projects are within our walls of our buildings or immediately on our grounds. So this one had an impact on the community, unlike most projects. So as we said before, we've reached out extensively to the general public. I don't think it's a bad idea in the future. We could have direct communications. Saying here's the project is going to start on this particular date. So I take your suggestion as an opportunity to do it better in the future. I do want to disagree to the extent that you said that this was being minimized by the pandemic. I know that that's certainly not the case. Our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. D'Elia, has had extensive conversation with the residents of this area. I know you in particular regarding this. I know he's been very open. You mentioned the site plan. I know he provided that to you. I think somebody mentioned that you had the site plan, so nobody was trying to hide anything when somebody asked for it. It was readily provided. So
but there's still no details that have been shared with us regarding stormwater management, right? There's a parking lot. Water has to go somewhere, right? It's a little unnerving to know where those storm drains are going to be placed. Is the elevation going to be changed? So I certainly agree with you that information has been shared at the request of the residents, right? And we had to go out and seek that information, but there's still some unanswered questions that I think we would appreciate having some more clarity around, because nobody wants stormwater showing up in their backyard and getting a new swimming pool, right? So there's certain specifics that I think would really be helpful. And look, I know there's other business to be discussed for this meeting. I don't intend to take up your entire evening, but I do think there's some additional information that we would appreciate to receive regarding this project to really just put concerns and fears at bay, right? And inform us a little bit better around where are these storm drains being placed? What is the pitch of the parking lot going to look like, right? And perhaps a separate meeting or discussion would be appropriate for 5 residents, right? So that's my last point. And again, I recognize information has been shared. It's just not comprehensive. And I wanted to make sure that's, understood as well.
Okay, if you have additional questions, please feel free to email Dr. D'Elia and CC myself, and we'll make sure those get answered.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on that topic? Not sure your name. It just says the data.
I know. It says Dee Dee's computer.
Okay. Ma'am, can you speak up, please, and provide us with your name and address so we can address it properly?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to do that. Okay, I can rename easily.
No,
My
you don't
name
need
is
to.
Dee
No, just tell me your name so I know how to speak it properly.
Okay, there's my rename of Dee Dee Axon, okay?
Good evening, Ms.
Yes, so I live on West 22nd Street on the other side of the street from where you took away all that vegetation, okay? I think it is horrendous and a rape of the land to take away all those trees. You could put in a parking lot without taking away all the vegetation that, gives us air. How about one thing, air? And the animal life that can live in those trees. You could have narrowed it without taking it all out. We can see the school now from the other side of the street.
It's a nice school.
Thank you. I'd rather be next to it than, 2 streets away.
Okay.
I was not aware of what you were going to be doing, ahead of time. And maybe I should have been aware of what you were taking away all of the trees, because that was unnecessary to put in a parking lot.
Okay. Anything further? We have a different judgment on the necessity of it. As I explained earlier, we had an acute shortage of parking, and we thought, as the stewards of this district, that we needed to rectify that. Not
Well,
insensitive to your.
That was very unfortunate, the way that you took away all the trees.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Communications are done. We have several items of new business. We're going to move on to new business. Item number 1 is the adoption of a retention schedule. Motion to discuss. Ms. Carey, seconded by Mr. Bronson. And actually turn this over to our district clerk, Ms. McLean, who is more intimately familiar with this.
Yes, the LGS 1 replaces our current schedule, the ED 1. And what's beneficial with this is that it is a single consolidated resource for all types of local governments to consult to determine what the retention period is for the records that we create. So as whereby before you had various schedules for the municipality that you work in, now it is one schedule. So for that matter, it does make it a little bit easier, and I did attach certain documents pertaining, that come directly from the LDS 1, and it's very straightforward.
Good. Different types of records have different retention.
Thank you indeed.
Okay. Interesting. Board, have any questions on that? All in favor? All opposed? Okay. New business item number 2 is the approval of donation from 10 Tigers. Motion to discuss. Ms. Harry, seconded by Mr. Nikowitz. Graciously received a donation in the amount of $1,500 from 10 Tigers for their co-sponsorship of the superintendent's weekly newsletter. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Excellent. Thank you to 10 Tigers for their continuous generosity and support of our school district. Moving on to new business, item number 3 is the approval of an agreement between the Board of Education and the Family Service League. Is there a motion to discuss? Mr. Bronson, seconded by Mr. Joyner. Dr. Leo?
Yes, this is our annual contract with the Family Services League. We started our relationship with them last year, and we are continuing again this year. And the program is housed here at James Caden Administrative Offices.
Does the board have any questions for Dr. Dilly on this matter? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, resolution is adopted. Next item we have is the approval of a license agreement between the South Huntington School District and the Spirit of Huntington Arts Center. Motion discussed. Ms. DiGatano, seconded by Mr. Nikowitz. Dr. Dilly?
Yes, we already have a relationship with the Spirit of Huntington at the old library at 2 Melville. We did have some extra space that was unoccupied, and we entered into agreement for 8 months, because as we know, the building is for sale. So we're trying to keep that flexibility there as well. And from the 8 months, we'll go to a month-to-month lease agreement.
Okay. Board have any questions on that? We'll discuss in the exec session as well. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Number 5, we have request to remain in South Huntington.
And they were all seniors.
Yeah, both seniors. We have a request to remain in South Huntington by a senior. Motion to discuss. Mr. Bronson, seconded by Ms. DiGatano. This item, as well as item number 6, are requests to remain in South Huntington by 2 seniors, including one with excellent penmanship. I think it's beautiful, isn't it? It's unbelievable. And our typical policy is that seniors that request to remain in South Huntington, we generally approve that because we want to see them finish out their education and be able to graduate with their friends from the district that they spent the time in. Any questions on that? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. New business item number 6 is another request to remain in South Huntington. Motion to discuss. Ms. Carey, seconded by Ms. LaCara. This likewise is a request to remain in South Huntington for the remainder of the school year from a graduating senior. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. New business item number 7 is the approval of an intermunicipal cooperation agreement between the South Huntington School District and the Northport East Northport Union Free School District. Motion to discuss. Ms. Carey, seconded by Mr. Joyner. Dr. DeLeo?
Yes, the Northport East Northport School District has a very small internal bus fleet. They have 14 large buses and 5 vans, and we are recommending that we enter into an agreement to service those vehicles for them.
And I take it this provides us with additional revenue?
It does.
Always good. Always looking to pick up some revenue. Board, have any questions on this arrangement? All in favor? Any opposed?
You're officially a pet boy, Pet boy, right?
Add to the list.
New business item number 8 is the approval of internal report. Motion to discuss. Mr. Bronson, seconded by Ms. Carey. Dr. DeLeo again. Yes.
Okay, our audit committee recently met, and this was vetted through the audit committee chaired by Mr. Nikowitz, and Naraki Smith did an internal risk assessment. They looked at 2 specific areas, Medicaid compliance and also student data. And within both of those areas, we looked at their suggestions and we followed through on coming up with recommendations on how we can improve. And it's important to note that everything was rated on a low scale of low risk. So there's always room for improvement, and we're always looking to go in that direction. So we have begun with the changes. Mr. Propillo led the Medicaid compliance, and Dr. Senamore went in his team with student data management. So we are in the process of putting those recommendations into place.
All good, Mr. Nikowitz?
Very good, very happy with the report. Very happy.
Good, thank you. Board, have any questions on that? All in favor? All opposed? All right, Mr. Nikowitz and Ms. Bronson, thank you for your service on the audit committee. New business item number 9 is the approval of the annual risk assessment corrective action plan. Motion to discuss. Mr. Nikowitz, seconded by Mr. Joyner. One more time, Dr. DeLeo.
Okay, this is a document that we have to submit to New York State, and it specifically outlines our recommendations for each of the areas I just had previously discussed.
Okay. Good. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? All right. And moving on to new business item number 10 is a resolution to amend meeting dates for the 2020-2021 calendar. Motion discussed. Ms. LaCara, seconded by Ms. Carey. And this is a change in light of the pandemic. So we're going to move our next 2 board meetings, December 9th, 2020 and January 27th, 2021, to be virtual and to be at district office rather than at the Birchwood and the high school. Probably well after that as well. So, any questions? Any opposed? Okay. All right, new business item 10 is adopted. New business item 11 is recommendations for placements by the Committee on Special Education and Preschool Special Education. Dates listed September, October, and November. Motion discussed. Ms. Nikowitz, seconded by Mr. Bronson, and Mr. Joyner. Any questions on the placements? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Personnel schedules are listed as 2, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, 20, and 22. Motion to discuss. Mr. Bronson, seconded by Ms. Carey. Any questions on the personnel schedules? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Information and reports are listed. Item number N, or letter N, is committee reports. The Facilities Committee met on November 16th. One of the discussion points was the Stimson parking lot that we had talked about earlier this evening. And the board has looked in the past to provide some boundary line markings in the form of a fence and some privacy in the form of shrubbery. And right now, the plan is for the district to install 7 to 8 foot evergreen shrubs in the form of green giants. And they are, as I said, 7 to 8 feet tall, and they grow rapidly, so they'll be taller than that, and then they will fill in very quickly. That is a cost at $24,000. In addition, the district had planned to install a 6-foot fence bordering the property, establishing our boundary at a cost of $40,000. We do have a consideration, though, in light of some of the comments that we've heard from the residents, to bring that fence up a little higher, to bring it up 2 additional feet to 8 feet, which would be a cost of an additional $17,000 to the district. And I want to open that up for the thoughts in the board to see whether everyone is okay with that.
Yes, I think that makes sense. I mean, I listened to the comments. I think we looked at this for a number of years. I think it's important for the community, including the neighbors, to understand that we do exercise our judgment to the best of our ability as board members. That's why we're elected, because we do review all of this, all of the data before reaching a decision. And, when we talk about when the neighbors or the community in general asks, well, maybe we don't need that many spots. I mean, that's the way our representative government works here. We have a large community, and we would have a large number of opinions. So we whittle it down to the 7 of us to employ our judgment to the best of our ability. But part of that judgment is considering our neighbors. Part of our judgment is considering the needs of the community. And in exercising that judgment, we consider so much of the data that is not necessarily going to be published in a newsletter or on a website. It's going to be spent being reviewed at meetings at night, and whether they're audit meetings or facility meetings, that's what we do as board members. So for those of you, in the community who sometimes wonder, I think this is a great opportunity to just shed a little bit more light on how the board operates as a unit. We have been elected, I should say, to represent you, the community at large, so that we don't have 25,000 people offering 25,000 varied opinions on how we should proceed, but to make it manageable. And that's how representative government works. So I could tell you that this board and this administration takes very seriously the concerns that you've raised, even at this stage. And given that that we have been talking about this for a number of years, I'm comfortable with what we've proposed is looking at, based on the data we've reviewed through this time.
Mr. Bronson?
And I just listening to each of the residents and the concerns. I think I heard, safety and security was one concern, and I think having the fence addresses that. I also think obviously sight lines and views and trees were also all mentioned as valid concerns, and by planting the 7 to 8 foot trees, by increasing the fence from 6 to 8 feet, obviously it's additional money, but I think it is money well spent for the community and also particularly for these residents that border the property. So I'm also supportive of those recommendations.
Everyone else on board?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so Dr. Delia, you have your marching orders to raise the fence 2 additional feet, which we think will provide some good relief to the concerns. Further, we talked about at the committee meeting, we talked about our summer capital projects. In addition to the ongoing one of the parking lot, we talked about the new or the revised and refurbished Waltwood High School Forum. One day when we're able to meet, we will love to hold a meeting there in that room because it is really a showpiece room. I urge everybody on the board to take a look at the final product on that you approved and that you authorized. And that's also kind of a good discussion point about how, we do things. We have subcommittees too of our regular committees because there's a lot of details that even us as a board can't get to, in terms of finishings or what color a floor is going to be. So we rely on our individual committees, whether it be the facilities committee, the curriculum committee, whether it be our audit committee or our policy committee. Those committees help do some of the nitty gritty of the board that you can't get to in a bigger group. So we're very proud of that project, and we're going to publicize it extensively. In addition to improving the room, its acoustics, its sound, its comfort, it provides 3 new what are called Amatage tables, which are virtual dissection tables. And these things are amazing, and we look forward to having a ribbon cutting and a nice press release where we can really publicize something that is a showpiece for our district and really is going to set us apart from a lot of other districts. We discussed also update on real estate. As Dr. Leah mentioned, we are trying to sell the 2 Melville property, which is our library. In addition, we have a couple other pieces of property for sale next to the district office and a piece of property where our central school used to be. And that was really all for the facilities committee. Future meeting dates are listed. And comments by board members. Okay. Any further voice of the residents? Mr. Ciarbola? Okay, we have, looks like we have one resident who would like to speak. Ms. Singh, or Mr. Singh, I'm sorry. Be the one, Bobby Singh?
Yes,
You're,
hi, thanks for letting me voice a comment. So I just want to make sure I understood you clearly. Are you saying 7 to 8 foot trees is the final decision?
yes.
Okay, I mean, that is a huge concern for us. We live at 34A Downey Court, so we're behind the property. So our house is very, very close to this property as everybody else's is. I think our house is probably the closest, and we can see right over into what will be the parking lot. And you cut down 30 to 40 foot trees, and my question is, how is it determined that 7 to 8 foot trees are the appropriate or sufficient tree height, given the the height of trees that you've cut down? That's a huge concern for us.
Okay, I'm going to turn this over to our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Delia, who can, he's going to be our resident arborist soon. Dr. Delia?
Ms. Singh, I believe the area you are referring to, I know I've been in conversation, I believe, with your husband. That area, actually, our contractor, Land Tech, these trees that we're talking about, the 7 to 8 foot trees, are the border trees going down the property line. The area right outside your fence in the backyard there, we are going to be, Land Tech will be planting about 20 to 25 foot high trees within that, deciduous trees within that area. So I want to be very clear that it's different from the 7 to 8 foot trees that you had referenced earlier.
Okay, I appreciate that because, you're right, you've had very productive conversations with my husband, which I do very much appreciate. And given our unique location here, I appreciate that, folks are sensitive to our location. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further comments from the public, Mr. Sirvel? Okay, no further comments by residents. With that said, I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion? Yes, we have a motion by Mr. Bronson, by Ms. DiGaetano, as well as Mr. Joyner and Ms. McCarron. All in favor? Any opposed? And just before we adjourn, I want to wish our community a very happy Thanksgiving. While it has been a very trying year, to say the least, we hope that you are able to, in a happy and healthy manner, enjoy Thanksgiving with your friends and family. And let us all be thankful for everything that we have, as well as hopeful for better days to come in which we are able to socialize without masks and in large groups. Be well. Happy Thanksgiving.